Can you hear me? I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sir, is it loud and clear now?
Absolutely, absolutely clear. What about me?
Okay. Sir, can you hear me loud and clear?
Absolutely. What about me? Can you
Okay.
hear me
Okay.
clearly?
Sir, are we good to go, sir?
Yes, but can you hear me clearly? Is my voice okay?
I can hear you absolutely clear and sound.
Super, super. All the best to you.
So thank you, sir. We are good to go?
Yes, yes, you're good to go.
Okay. Okay, sir. We are going live, sir. We are going live now.
Right.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Sandeep Bose Motivation Speaker channel. Those of who watching us from the YouTube, and welcome to Sandeep English Academy from Facebook page. We are going live. As I told you yesterday, we will have a special guest with us, and we have our distinguished guest with us, Mr. KG Mohan. Sir is the current management consultant from Jivitam, and he was the ex general manager of Wipro BPS Kolkata and Wipro BPS Hyderabad. He was associated with different organizations from Microsoft, Convergys, uh, Godrej. And sir, if I'm not wrong, you started off your career with Godrej. Is it
That's
so?
true. That's true. Yes.
Right, right.
30
And
years
not
ago.
only
That's right.
that, if I here to say, sir, your qualifications or your positions that you have hold across the country, that is the list is huge. If I can say that, I think half an hour will go in telling the people that what are your degrees or what are your learn from the distinguished management colleges. If I'm not wrong, you have completed your management degree from Jharkhand XLRI, right?
That's right.
1989. You started your journey from
True.
there, right?
That's
And if
true.
I go back in Kolkata, you started your schooling from Kolkata. What is the school, sir, where you started your schooling in
That
Kolkata?
it used to be called Hindi High School then. Now it's called Birla High School in Kolkata.
Right, right. After the schooling, did you move to Bangalore, or you did your
Yes.
graduation from Kolkata as well?
No, no. When I moved at the age of 13, I moved to Bangalore and joined Frank Anthony Public School here. And after finishing my class 10, I joined St. Joseph's College of Arts and Bangalore, did
Right.
my electrical engineering from RV College, Bangalore, moved to Jamshedpur, XLRI.
So could you please tell our viewers that a little bit about your upbringing, how you started off your schooling, and how was that kind of environment when you were growing up in the outskirts, and probably in Kolkata? What was the situation like, and did you enjoy your childhood back then?
Uh, I would say it was a great time those days. My father actually spent about almost 4 decades in Calcutta along with his father. And from 1966, when I was born, till 1979, I was in Calcutta. Though I was not born in Calcutta, I was born in Kakinada, Andhra Pradesh. And after a few weeks, I moved to Calcutta. And my mother's biggest grouse used to be that I spoke Bengali first before my mother tongue Tamil. And that's a city which is still close to my heart. I spent again 3 years from 2011 to 2014 there when I was at Wipro Kolkata. I will tell you those years were great. In fact, whenever we played on the streets of Calcutta. There were no video games or other games indoors. It was always outdoors. Festivals were celebrated always together. So Durga Puja or Saraswati Puja or Kali Puja or even the Rath Yatra. Those were great memories of that city. And living in Lake Road, which is very close to the lakes of Calcutta, uh, great environment to be at. And those friends of those years are still great friends now. Our WhatsApp group of that age of friends still continues, and we chat almost every day. And those friendships last for lifetime and beyond lifetimes. Hope our children will remain connected beyond our journey on this planet.
Right, right. Sir, could you please check your audio once because your voice are coming little lower. I
Can
can
you hear
hear
me now
you,
better
but
now?
yeah,
Is it better
it's
now? In
same,
terms
sir.
of
It's same. It's
okay,
same.
okay. You want me to test my
Please take your time, sir. No issues.
okay. I think I should be clear now.
Yeah, it's clear, but the voice. I think.
Still
Just a
not
moment. Let me
not
let me check from my end.
okay.
Just let me. Sir, am I audible to you?
You are absolutely audible. Am I audible
Yeah,
now?
it's better now.
Great.
It's better now, sir. Yeah. So you were talking about your journey, how you started off your schooling, and how you spent your early childhood in Kolkata with your friends. You must be having so many Bengali friends, right, back then. And
Bengalis and Marwadis. So they were, see, I don't know if you know that the Birlas long back came and settled down in Calcutta. And the historical fact, which I think many of them don't know, that when Birla set up their first jute mills in Calcutta, the Britishers actually bought land and landlocked them. And they would never allow
right,
them to expand. And a company called Andrew Yule actually played the role of landlocking Birlas. But very strangely,
right,
over time, as karma catches up, the Birlas bought
right,
over Andrew Yule and how they established themselves in Kolkata.
right. So, sir, there are so many questions. We actually, this is, as you know, that this is a passion podcast and it's a motivational show where so many people are joining us. I can see from Facebook as well as YouTube, and everybody is joining us across the world, not only from India. So they must be having a lot of questions, but I think we are not having much time. I have made some of my questions for my viewers. I got so many questions from so many operations manager. When they came to know that you are coming, they send me personally, email me so many ops related questions, but I afraid that I might not able to ask all of them to you because I want to explore more about your personal life. What is your learning through life and how you spend your life in these difficult times, because we are going through unprecedented times and I myself just recovering from COVID, and the last 1 month was a hell for me. I'm still not recovered, but I think this is something which I'm doing, which is giving me some sense of motivation, inspiration, and guests like you are always motivated me. If you remember, sir, I was an ex-employee of Wipro BPO Kolkata, and I would like
Very
to tell
true.
my viewers that we had a meeting one day with you. I don't know if you remember it or not, and it was in the ground floor. Don't recall the tower number. You were sitting on the one corner of the table. I was sitting on the different corner of the table, and I was so mesmerized by your speech that day. The way you motivated us, the way you told us how we can manage ourselves and the team, how we should work for the better goal and create history. That is still buzzing on my ears, and I believe, sir, those who have already worked with you will say the same thing. And it's a great honor, sir, that we have you with us in the show. But I would like to ask you some difficult questions with your permission.
Go ahead, Sandeep. And it's an honor to be with you too.
Right, right. Sir, how do you see this diversity right now in the country where so many people has lost their jobs? Last year, I was going through a research where I saw that almost 14 crores of people, they lost their jobs in India. This year also, so many people lost their jobs. Companies were shut. People are not getting full salary, maybe half salary, or some of them are getting lesser than that. On the contrary, we have people who are dying without food and things like that. Their family members want to come outside their house to work, but they are not getting the opportunities. And few people who are very lucky enough that they're having their job and they're working from home and things like that. I know it's very difficult to work from home. You must be agree with me on that, but how do you see this diversity in a vast populated country like India, where it's very difficult for the governments also to manage all this stuff. What is your take on it?
So, Sandeep, what I would say is that look at things from a perspective. Our planet is about 5 billion years old. So you can imagine how many times this planet must have gone through upheavals, and yet we are here, right? We are here and now.
Right.
And I can
Right.
tell you the planet is going to last for 5 billion years more. So these blips will happen. The important thing during these blips are to see how do people react and respond to challenges like this. Will problems occur? The answer is always yes. So you cannot have life which is always smooth. So you want to have a rose plant with thorns, and the rose still grows among those
Right.
thorns, right? So people
Right.
are going to lose jobs. People have lost jobs. But look at it from a perspective of opportunities. There are lots of people. In fact, the women of this country have suddenly got huge opportunities to work from home. If you look at it from a time immemorial, the women workforce in this country always struggled for multiple reasons because leaving the home and working, childbearing age, the responsibilities at home always kept them back. But suddenly, this pandemic has changed the entire paradigm. Women can work from home
Right.
now, they can contribute equally because they're already competent, are able to do that, right? So that's an opportunity again.
Right.
Now, there are families, conventional jobs are going away. For example, see, my father worked in the same organization for more than 35 years. Okay, and
Okay.
many of our parents have also gone through the same experience. But what life has taught is that now the gig economy has opened up. So what it means is that people have the opportunity to work for multiple organizations, multiple times of the day, and yet earn a living which is good enough for them. And we can't forget Gandhi's words, right? There is enough in this world to meet our needs, but never enough to meet our greed. So, for meeting your needs, there is enough available. There is going to be a downturn, and there are so many people in this country who are helping each other across caste, creed, religion. You have heard of so many people of the minority Muslim community who are actually going and cremating Hindu bodies because there's lack
Right.
of manpower doing that, right?
Right.
So people coming together at these times is what we must celebrate. It is not the pandemic that we must be worried about. It is about how humanity has come together to help each other. There are, for example, ISKCON in Bangalore is providing meals to 60,000 people every day during this
Right.
pandemic. And there are thousands of people donating money for this cause. So we should not always get bogged down by what's negative happening. Keep looking at the clouds. You'll always find a silver lining. And the sun is going to shine. Because night comes every day, right? But have you ever seen a
Absolutely.
day when night came and day did not start the next day? The sun rose the next day, right? And
Absolutely.
what
Absolutely.
we call what we call day and night also is a myth, right? Because when we see night here, some part of the world at the exact moment is seeing day. So we have to constantly look at the positivity that is existing in this environment today
Right. Hello.
from now and learn about what. So, in
Hello.
summary, Sandeep, pandemics will come, pandemics will go. It is a human
Right.
grit, resilience, and optimism which will make the world move.
Right.
And that's what continuously happens.
Right. Sir, you are
Go ahead.
absolutely right. I was watching a picture yesterday on Facebook about 1920s pandemic that happened 100 years ago, where people are also wearing same kind of mask and face shields, which we are wearing right now. And I was attending one seminar yesterday about emotional intelligence, where a doctor, psychologist, he was talking about we are right now battling with COVID-19. Maybe don't know we're going to have so many things like that. Maybe COVID-29 can happen as well. So we got to be prepared for that mentally and physically. Right. Sir, are you? This is a different question. Are you a believer in karma? Big believer in
Karma
karma?
is going to be there. Absolute strong believer in karma. Strong believer in karma. And karma has to be
So,
seen in multiple perspectives. Okay. Uh,
Right.
I was in a temple in a town called Deoria, where there's a Balaji temple, and I met a priest there along with some of my colleagues a few years ago. And one of my colleagues asked a question about why do good people suffer and why do bad people generally seem to be enjoying life. And I will take the example quoted by Swami Ramanujacharya, who's the head priest of the temple, what he told us. He said, life is like you've got an ATM, right? And ATM has got money in it. So don't look at it money, look at the good deeds being done. And karma is not one lifetime, it is across lifetimes. So a person who has an ATM, only he knows how much money in the bank is there for him, how many good things are there for him. The person outside doesn't know that. So if you see a bad guy really enjoying life, he's actually using up the money in his ATM of the good deeds, and by doing bad deeds, the money in his ATM is coming down. And this money might not have come in that lifetime. It might have been his good deeds he did in the previous lifetime. You are only seeing him enjoying it. So all you have to do is, if you know that your ATM money will run out one day and bad times for you will start, though you looked enjoying initially, continuously do good. And as Bhagavan Sai Baba says, love all, serve all. Keep doing that, and your ATM will always be with a positive balance. If you start doing something negative, the world outside will not see your ATM balance going down, but someday the ATM balance will go negative, and then the suffering starts. They may not see this lifetime because it will be happening to you the next lifetime. So the moral of the story is that don't see karma only from a perspective of should I be good or bad. The answer is always that remain good. And humans know that they need to be good. But unfortunately, the human also has the Satan tempting them. And the challenge is not to get into the bad company or bad thoughts and continue doing what is good for society as a whole. Serve selflessly. And by doing that, your ATM will always have a positive balance and keep growing. That's the law of
Sir,
karma.
you right, right. Sir, you have very well summed up and so many deep insights you have shared. I was just about to ask you the question which you have already answered, that where you are talking about ISKCON and other Ramakrishna Mission and other organization who are doing excellent job, where people are selling remdesivir for 1 lakh rupees. They are pirating fake sanitizers, selling fake N95 masks, charging lakhs of rupees for few kilometers. So you have already summed up this question by answering this karma and how the suffering of those people who are unaware of the suffering still now, or maybe they're doing it for a bigger purpose, they will eventually have it sometime soon or later. Very well summed it up, sir. So now I would like to move on to a different segment which you also might enjoy, because you have been to different organizations and you have seen the growth. You have started your career with Godrej, then you are the sales in charge of Wipro in the South zones. Is it correct, sir? So
Very true, very true.
Wipro, right, sir. Wipro is very close to my heart because I have worked there for a few months. Not very, so like you have worked for so many years, but it is a special place in my heart, and I am very sure that Wipro has some, some place in your heart as well, very close to your heart as well. So I would like to ask you this question, sir. Joining Wipro was how important was for you to join this company, and did it change your life somewhere where today? You see,
I'll tell you, I have worked for Wipro twice. Once four
yeah,
years and then 3 years. So
right.
initial 3 years
So we
was
will
at
we will come
Telegram
to that
Solutions.
later, but I just wanted to know how this first phase changed your life. We'll come to know later because
So I'll
we
tell
have
you,
some. I have some interesting question from that. Yeah,
great. But I'll tell you the experience, the two organizations which I really appreciate, which molded me as an individual and also created a lot of friends of those times, which are lifetime friends. It was almost 30 years in the first company, Godrej, where I worked, and then last 23 years ago, I started working in Wipro. And what I'll tell you is that both the leaderships, I will talk about two incidents.
right,
One is in terms of Godrej. The day I left Godrej, the month I left Godrej, rather, after 8 years of working there, I was a young executive, right? I was not a great, I didn't have titles or names at that point of time. And I
Right.
wrote an email to the managing director of Godrej those days, Mr. Jamshed Godrej, and requested that I wanted to meet him because it's the first time I'm going to leave a company and join another company in my career after 8 years. And I was pleasantly surprised when he called me to leave. And that was what taught me what humility meant. Even today, the Godreges are well respected in the world. What they have done for environment is unprecedented. The those of who know about the mango groves off the shores of Vikhroli are preserved by the Godrej family. And
Right.
what Jamshed Godrej did that day by calling me into his room and telling me goodbye will never be forgotten by me as a hallmark of a true humble leader. And when I joined
Right.
Wipro, it was a transition of cultures, very strange coincidence. I left Godrej, and the manufacturing division of Godrej the same year got bought out by the same division I joined in Wipro the next year. So it was almost like a continuation of the same company, but with a different name. And that's when I first started understanding Mr. Premji. And all of us who know Premji knows and what an impeccably humble man he is, great visionary, thinks big, executes flawlessly, yet at his own personal level, extremely high ethics, personal integrity, and humility. Now, if you work in organizations of that kind, it creates an self-evaluation process for you to check whether how aligned are you with these kind of thoughts, and you constantly get rubbed off by those people, and it rubs off on you. So I will never forget these two organizations, Wipro and Godrej, and individual leaders in those two organizations have made huge impacts on lives of multiple people who work for them, because Wipro has produced so many CEOs who have left Wipro. And that couldn't have happened unless they had the grounding in Wipro. So to answer your question again, Wipro has been not only close to my heart, close to my soul too.
Absolutely true. It's still close to my soul too, sir, as well. Sir, just a curious question from my side. You have completed your management degree, operations management you have done from Exeleri Jamshedpur way back in 1989. You completed in 91, if I'm not wrong. And then when you started your career
That's
with
right.
Godrej, is it the year 1999?
91. Godrej was 91.
Okay, Godrej
Wipro
is
was
91
99.
and all right. So Wipro, when you started your career with Wipro as a sales manager, you was a sales manager of South Zone.
I joined them in customer support first, the national customer support manager for Wipro in 91, and
Right.
then 99, and then in 2000 I became the head of sales for South.
Sir, this is what very interesting. You have completed your education on operations management, right? But you are working for Wipro as a sales head. So how do you see this transition? You are always interested in
So
operations management,
that's a good
or
question.
this opportunity came, you grabbed the opportunity, or is it something you
These are all
wanted
about
to do it
leadership.
for?
Correct.
Yeah, right. Please go ahead.
So I'll tell you, it's like this is a very good question that you asked, because it gets the context how leaders are in organizations. Ram Agarwal used to be the MD of Wipro Peripherals those days. And
Mhm.
after spending about 1.5 years heading customer support, he just called me in one day to his room and said, KG, there's a role of South Zone head. We're going to create a new structure where the country's sales will divide into North and South. And there's a position of South sales head. And he didn't give me an option. He said, please start. So I said, but one thing you must understand that sales is not just a function. All of us keep selling throughout our lives, irrespective of what role you do. For example, if you
Right.
are going to marry somebody and you want to propose to the person, what are you doing? You're basically selling your qualities to the person to convince the person to marry you, right?
Right.
Similarly, in
Right.
life, you're going to sell ideas. Like you may have to go and tell your father, I want to do something which your father may not be very agreeable to, but you have to convince your father. What is the convincing called? It's called selling. And if you have an
Right.
operations background, it adds the ease to the business, because sales is a highly operational job. It has got pipeline creation, selling your idea, getting into the mode of creating the inventory and getting the inventory into a distributor or retailer and then into a customer's house. Correct? The entire
Right.
operation end to end is actually selling. So the answer to your question is that Wipro created leaders this way. Wipro said, we will give you the opportunity if you have the potential. We will support you if you fail, but we will not stop you from taking risks. So that culture of leadership is ingrained in Wipro, and Rama even today runs the organization, has that ingrained in him, creating new leaders. And that's how I went into sales.
Great.
And then you know that in the operations job, after that, in all your outsourcing world, not only do operations, you keep selling, right? Because you have to get new
Right.
clients into the company. Then you have to have the current company, current business you're doing also to grow. So there are
Right.
sales becomes a part of your DNA, even if you do operations.
Right. So true. So true. And so much of insight, sir. So much of insight you are adding to this podcast. I'm really delighted to hear all this, and our viewers. I would like to request our viewers, if you have any questions, you can definitely type on the chat box, or later also when we will be free. If sir is free, then we'll send those questions to sir, and sir, you can definitely take your time and ask those
Sure,
questions
sure.
if you find. Yeah, definitely. So, sir, after Wipro, you left Wipro after working for how many years you have left? How many years you have worked in Wipro as a
The first time was around 3.5 years.
3.5 years. After that, you joined Microsoft, or is it
I
Convergys?
joined a company actually called iSeva. So that is where in
Right,
2002 when I joined iSeva, it is called E4E now, and that organization also coincidentally was set up by ex-Wiproites who had
right,
a person, Sridhar Mitta, who had set up this organization. And my entire outsourcing learning happened in this company. And I'm thankful to a man called Vaibhav Tiwari, who is currently the CEO of Portia, a co-founder of Portia. Uh, he and some people from IIM Calcutta had actually become entrepreneurs and have set up this company along with Sridhar Mitta. And anything and everything I've learned in outsourcing, let me be honest, came from this organization, a very small organization where I held an account for an ISP. And what I
hmm,
learned in outsourcing business, right from attrition management to absenteeism management to people management to operations management to metrics management, customer support, satisfaction management, came from this company. And what I've understood is that small organizations give you a great opportunity to learn. There is not only freedom there, you have got immense opportunity to do a lot of work across multiple parts of the role, but also learn a lot because there is hands-on learning experience happening there. And that's where I joined the call center business, was outsourcing business, post my Wipro and Godrej stint. And then I
so just
learned how I just
yeah, sorry to
end by
interrupt.
one part that after stability for about 11 years, for the first time I learned how unstable the outsourcing business is. Because if you look at the number of times I've organizations after that, it tells you that how the outsourcing business works. For example, I say after 1 year, the account went back to the client. I joined Sykes after 1 year, the organization shut down its operation in India. And so the uncertainty which I've learned in my life is that uncertainty will occur. There will be blips in your life, but continuity of life will never stop as long as you're optimistic, as long as you've picked your skills over your lifetime and you have learned various aspects of your trade, you will always keep continuing in life and growing.
Right, sir. I was just wanted to ask you these questions. You were talking about this company where you joined and where you learned so many things about customer service. Uh, so many budding entrepreneurs are watching this podcast, or they will be watching it later, maybe. So, any suggestion or anything you want to tell those who are aspiring entrepreneurs, maybe on a small scale? What are the things that they need to keep in mind before starting any business or anything? What are the core organization values they should add from the day one?
So uh, if you want to understand entrepreneurship, there is one man who is my guru, and that's Subrata Bakshi, who also was an ex-Wiprovite and then joined Mindtree and currently heads the Skilling Council of Odisha. So entrepreneurship is not an easy job, and I my last 10 years I have spent in organizations teaching employees. Was the biggest difference between an entrepreneur and an employee is that an entrepreneur earns his money every minute of his life, whereas an employee gets a salary in his account every month. So there's a huge difference.
Passive income
So
you're
before
talking
you
about.
jump into
Passive.
entrepreneurship, remember that. Pardon? You said?
Passive income. Right. Yeah.
Okay. So what I said, that's right. So the question is that you have to earn your income every day. It is not that you can sit back and say my life is done. So people who look at Ambani's and Gates and others, please remember their wealth did not come by sitting back and earning a monthly package. Their wealth came through thinking every day and trying to run an organization and also an idea being sold almost every day and creating something new. So they are on their toes 24 by 7, 365 days. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, remember that the culture of creativity. And you have to convert that creativity into money. It can't just remain a creative idea. Know how to convert that idea into a business opportunity which somebody will pay for and find value. If you don't have that idea and you don't have the right timing for doing it, your business is going to fail. And if it's going to fail, entrepreneur doesn't worry because he's constantly thinking how to succeed. So he is not going to say, I failed yesterday, so I'm going to close the business and go home. No. He's going to look for the next. He already has in his mind what is his plan B, plan C, and plan D. Whereas a salaried employee has the maximum plan B. He knows if plan A fails, plan B is there. Entrepreneur has plan B, plan C, plan D. Because for him,
Absolutely.
failure is not an option. He will have to continue to succeed. So anyone who wants to get into entrepreneurship, your DNA of thinking has to be very different. It has to be, you have to have the risk taking ability. You must know which idea will convert into a value for the customer. And most importantly, you need to understand when you build an organization, it has to be on the foundation of a strong culture of ethics. Because otherwise, somewhere during the path, you are going to fall down. And the only way organizations succeed and grow is when their foundations are strong and when the leadership there has complementary skills. It is, see, just because you're the head of organization doesn't mean that you have all the skills. You must surround yourself with people with complementary skills. Some of those skills you may not have. Somebody may have a better skill than you. Bring that person on and let him contest with you and try to grow the organization together so that the organization benefits from leadership, which is not one man autocratic, but a set of leaders with complementary skills who will drive the organization to success. And that's what an entrepreneur must think and dream of even before starting on that path.
Very well summed it up,
I hope
sir.
that answers you.
I would like to ask you one other point from this particular question. As you mentioned yourself, that entrepreneurship is not an easy task. You know, everybody cannot do it. It takes a a large heart and such courage to set up a organization. But uh, if I tell you example, like say for example Elon Musk, he's such a visionary, and everybody like Jamshedji Tata, whoever started their career from very small, Dhirubhai Ambani, they all are entrepreneurs. So, do you think, sir, doing this entrepreneurship, somehow they have lost their physical as well as mental satisfaction or life balance, and it taken a toll on their health, and we lost them very early? Is it? Do you believe on this, or how one can balance it so that health issues like mental physical issues also at they can save it from them and continue to grow like all the great people does or did rather. Hello. 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 I think there's a network issue and we have lost the connectivity. Okay, our viewers, it's a network issue. We have lost some connectivity this time around with one with us. Uh, Please be with us. It's a technical glitch which happened, and hopefully KG sir will be joining soon. So as I told you, we have a technical glitch this time around. So sir will be joining up sooner. So please stay tuned, everyone who are watching it all over the world. Sir will be joining very soon. Everybody, please stay tuned. Sir was talking about entrepreneurship and what are the skills it's required for an entrepreneur to be, start his own organization and be fearless and courageous. And if somebody is watching and wants to be an entrepreneur, I think this lesson is going to be a life learning lesson for you all. So please stay tuned and watch. This is going to be a very interesting podcast. I have some more interesting questions to ask Mr. KG Mohan, and we'll bring some interesting, funny facts about his life as well. So please stay tuned and keep watching. And please put your questions if you have any questions, any suggestions. You can always comment on this comment section so that we can ask those questions to Mr. KG Mohan. Any ideas, any thoughts, any suggestions, if you have, please feel free to write down on the comment section, and we'll definitely would like to have a look at it and answer your questions at this time. We are going through an unprecedented times, difficult times of our lives, never seen before, tough times, and but we should not give up. Giving up is not an option because we see so many people losing their lives each and every day. I myself was COVID diagnosed with COVID and recovered. I'm on the process of recovery, but giving up is not an option for any of us. Those who are watching, thank you for all of you for the support and the love that you are showing to our podcast. Uh, Please free to write any suggestions if you have on the comment sections, and Mr. Mohan will definitely address that in this podcast. Thank you so much. Please follow our channel, Sandeep Bose Motivation Speaker channel, where I bring in more videos like this. I interview successful people from various sectors of the society. So they, or when they come, they share their experiences, their challenges, their struggles, their failures, their setbacks, and how they bounce back. That's what I bring in. And we talk about their passion. Let me check once again with KG sir. I can't see him yet. Okay, I think the internet is back with KG sir, and he will be joining in few seconds. In the meanwhile, you can definitely ask your questions if you have any questions. Mr. KG Mohan is. Sir, am I audible to you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Can I hear? Okay, can you hear
Yeah,
me, sir?
just a moment.
Okay, sir. Some technical glitch is going on. Please stay tuned, everyone. Please bear with us. We'll be right back sooner. And this is totally understandable. The weather conditions is not good. So I believe the weather conditions also is not good where you live, because a few days back the cyclone happened, and it's, I think, interrupted the whole networking system. Is it true, sir? I think the technical issues still continuing. So need to check. Okay. So internet problem is there. Okay. So can you hear me? Sir, I think if you can turn off your camera, then it will be perfect. Then the network will be perfect, sir, if you turn off your camera. Sir, I believe you having a network issue. If you please turn off your camera, then I think it will be better for you. So can you hear me, sir? Hello? Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes, absolutely.
Sir, your voice is not audible actually. I can see you, but I cannot hear you, sir. Can you check the microphone, maybe? Please stay tuned, everyone. We are trying to sort out this glitch which has just happened due to sudden network issue. Uh, where I'm apologizing on the behalf of our podcast. Uh, we're trying to fix this technical glitch as soon as possible. So please stay tuned. unfortunate incident. So please pardon us. So am I
Right.
audible, sir?
Yes, you're audible. Yes,
Okay. Okay,
you
sir.
are
Is it
switching
better
off
now?
the. Yes, it's much better, much better. Sorry for the
Okay, great, great, great to be back,
vagaries of
sir.
technology. This is the vagaries of
Yeah,
technology.
yeah. Part of our life, sir.
But as I said, as COVID-19 will go one day, technology gets solved, right? It's just a matter of blip.
Right, right. So there
Continue.
were
Sorry.
some network issues. Yeah, yeah. I saw some
That's
from
right.
your end, but I could not stop you because you was going through with so insightful details. I could not wanted to stop you back then also. But this network, I think it's perfect, and I can
Yes.
see you and hear you absolutely clear. So you were talking about something. You were talking about something when we lost you.
We talked about entrepreneurship and why it's
Right.
important.
How to balance the mental and physical perspective if somebody wants to be an entrepreneur and they need to work very hard, and sleep is a very important aspect. Elon Musk sleeps hardly 2 to 3 hours a day, but everybody can't do it. So how do you see how one should approach his health mentally, physically, if they want to become an entrepreneur, successful
Okay.
entrepreneur?
So let me put it this way. See, generally, when we talk about entrepreneurs, we look at the large spectrum of people. We generally focus on the big top 20 billionaires in the world, right?
Right, right,
But remember that the world doesn't operate only with those 20 people.
right,
There are millions of entrepreneurs who run their daily life running their business. It can be a small
right,
restaurant. It can be a person who is repairing car tire punctures. It can be a street vendor selling vegetables. It can be a
right,
cobbler on the street. There are entrepreneurs,
right,
right? So we don't have to be
right,
a multi-millionaire or multi-billionaire to be an entrepreneur. And the more important fact is that they all lead an honest living. They
right.
run their show every day, and they are what I would call the unsung heroes of this nation.
Absolutely
And
true.
for example, during this lockdown, during my morning walks, I met a man who is from West Bengal, in fact, from Murshidabad, who
Okay,
wakes up every morning at 4 a.m. and
okay,
collects plastic and earns about 500 rupees a day. Okay.
right.
He starts at 4 a.m. He comes to my area around 8 o'clock. So you can time your watch. If you are at around 8 o'clock,
Sir,
that
sir,
man
sir,
is.
if I'm not wrong, you have posted this in your social media handles as well,
Yes,
right?
there are plenty of
Yeah,
stories like this. So,
right.
I keep saying he's an entrepreneur, right? Because he's earning his daily bread
Bread and
every
butter.
day.
Yeah,
He doesn't get a monthly salary. He has to earn the money every day. And he's fit. He's in the 60s. And he's actually cycling. He has a three-wheeler cycle where he
right,
has a large basket at the back to collect plastic. And he's contributing to the environment, right? The man is actually
right.
making it pollution-free plastic being collected. And
Absolutely.
he's healthy. He's
Right,
perfectly fit. And he tells me he doesn't remember when he last fell sick. So entrepreneurs need not be people who don't sleep or they struggle and they have heart attacks. No. Or they are not the ones who go to gyms every day and get trained. This man cycles for his livelihood and is fit. So some myths have to be busted. Entrepreneurs are normal human beings. They only have a different DNA of trying to create something for themselves and the world around. There are people who grow slowly, and also, for example, my barber, who is from Assam, he says that he wants to set up his own saloon a few years from now. He's collecting money for that, and his aim is to provide employment to others like him who want to become barbers in their lifetime. So, and that is again the intention to grow, ambition to succeed, and do well is what the entrepreneur DNA is all about. And he's healthy, right? He's not struggling sleepless nights, falling sick, going to the hospital. No. So there are millions of people like this who are entrepreneurs who run a very good life, who also put in their efforts, but are equally healthy. So let us not confuse ourselves by saying that entrepreneurs are do disproportionate kind of work and fall sick. No, not necessarily. There are people who are entrepreneurs or even corporate life people who go to the gym every day, run plenty of miles every day, yet at the age of 35 might have a heart attack and pass away. But those are all exceptions. So it is not that we don't go by the exceptions in the world, we go by the rule, and the majority of them are healthy, run their business well, and constantly look for ways. Because I work with farmers today, right? For the last 1 year, during COVID 19, we are a group of around 25 volunteers under the aegis called Iblu's Farmers Market. Iblu is the area where we live in. So about 75 to 80 farmers have come to our community over the last 1 year. Each farmer is an entrepreneur, right? He's running his own show and he's not getting a salary end of the month. He's running, and they come. The last 20 days, 7 farmers have brought mangoes to our neighborhood, and they're all healthy guys. They plan well. They talk to us, and so in that sense, I would say entrepreneurs need not be stressed out people. They need to have just a DNA of succeeding and earning livelihood by the day and creating wealth not only for themselves but trying to give employment to others. And our nation is going to grow that way. The $10 trillion economy that we're dreaming about is not going to come through standard corporates. There are going to be thousands of entrepreneurs who are setting up small businesses, and that's how the economy is going to grow.
True.
And so when we keep saying employment, we are looking at only people getting PF in their bank account, PF account being filled up. No, that's not the employed guy only. There are hundreds of people who are currently working, who are gainfully employed for a livelihood, who may not come under the classical basket of employed in the way we have thought traditionally. But these people are the ones who are creating wealth for the world. Correct?
True, sir. Absolutely agree with you. And I just wanted to share an insight. I have started a small entrepreneurship business by myself also. And I'm taking care of this academy and also arranging these interviews and podcasts. So this is an exciting journey. Actually, you are absolutely right that excitement keeps you going. This excitement keeps you, you sleep less because of the excitement you have inside you. And that always motivates you. I don't know how much I slept yesterday or what I eat in the morning, but I am feeling very enthusiastic, very motivated, very positive while taking your interview at this point of time. Although I'm recovering from COVID, I cannot sense any kind of side effects or anything, feeling anything. I'm feeling super charged, super positive, energetic.
And you are, so I think last night, right till about 10:30, 11:30 at night, you were still awake. And that proves the point that sleepless nights need not always lead to bad health.
Absolutely. I think it's a myth that people have created, the news media, news channels, people around us who always see the, the bad side or the negative side of it. But I think you have pointed out something which I think people should know and should see this podcast, and they should do something of their own also. Like you have done it by yourself throughout your life. And I also have found something which I want to continue for the rest of my life. And need all your blessings and all the viewers who are watching it from all around the world. Thank you, sir, so much. Yes, please, sir. Please go ahead.
You will surely do well. No doubt about it. Don't even have a single doubt.
Right, sir. Thank you. So we are almost going to end the podcast, but we still have few more questions before you go, because it's a rare opportunity to have you on some interviews like this, because I know you're super busy. Right, so it's very difficult to get you on board. So I would like to ask you a few more questions. It will be very, very beneficial for our viewers, whoever watching us. Mostly the managers, entrepreneurs, small businessmen, students, mostly students. Mostly my students. They're watching. They are budding. They are the aspiring people. They are the future of the country. So I think some words of wisdom. You have already enriched the show with your wisdom. But I want some more. I don't want to let this opportunity lose like that. So a few more questions I have with you is role of motivation in your life, and what an organization can do to motivate their employees. I want to know your perspective on it. Yeah.
Very important question, right? Motivation has always been a word used to do things better. Correct? If an employee says that I want to do better, I better get motivated. Correct? And what actually happens is that you constantly look for motivation from the external side. That means you want someone to motivate you. And that is where the first myth needs to get busted. That motivation is not about from outside. It is all within you. It is all about if you want to get motivated from outside, if the external trigger stops, you will stop. If the motivation is from inside, you will keep the trigger on because you want to do well every day. So very important, and in the same context, I think we need to look back into our own nation's history. Okay, the Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by Lord Krishna to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that has not lost its relevance even today.
Right.
So chapter 2, verse 47 is the famous, most distinctive verse in the Bhagavad Gita on Karmanye Vadikaraste. So the entire two-line sloka embodies what I would say motivation is about. It says that you need to act. Your duty is to act. You are duty bound to act, but not to the fruits thereof. So what comes as the outcome, the expectation is to remain detached. If it succeeds, great, don't jump and celebrate. If it fails, don't jump and celebrate. But you're accountable to put the best efforts possible and keep remembering what is done is not done by you but by the power above. And more importantly, just because you fail sometimes or succeed sometimes, don't not do something. Don't be in the state of inaction. Always be in the state of action. Be detached from the outcome, detached completely from the outcome, good or bad, and focus on your effort. And how is that possible? That's only possible if you're self-motivated, right? If you're motivated from outside, other person stops you from doing something and says, today you're a bad guy. And you react to that statement, then you are not controlling it to your own nature. You are getting controlled by somebody else.
Right.
And that is what Krishna is trying to say. And apply that to your work day also. When you work at any organization or as an entrepreneur, your focus has to be to do the right things, the right efforts, and do it the best way possible by you. Do not do a shoddy job. Do the best effort possible, taking the best collaborative effort of friends and team members, and execute that. There may be times when you will fail. There may be times when you will succeed. You should not get impacted by that because you are focusing on the right, and you will, by nature, if you do the right things the right way, majority of the times you succeed. Because I don't think Arjuna ever knew that if he follows the Gita, he's going to win the war. He knew win the war only after the 18-day war. Correct? But he had to act and take part in the war. He had to fight the war. That was his duty. What happened into the war, he won or not, did the Yadavas die after some time? Those are all historical facts post the event. But at the point of doing the war, and it is very beautiful, the last chapter of Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, I have told you what I have to tell you. The final decision of to go to war is yours, not mine. So again, it is not an external trigger. He's telling him, I am not going to be a trigger for you to go to war. I can only teach you. I can only influence you. The actual act of decision to go to war is yours. So go ahead and act the way you have to act. And as Arjuna, as a true student and surrendered person to Krishna, he went to war not because Krishna told him, because he assessed the learning and took the learning and went to war without knowing who to win or not. He did the best efforts during the war. Krishna helped him for sure. And that's what happens when you start doing the right things. The world conspires to make you succeed. So don't look for motivation outside. That's a very temporal motivation. It can never remain permanent. Motivate yourself for the simple fact that you have come into this universe to do something and do it the best way possible. So continue doing that. Don't get attached to the outcome, because that's going to disappoint you or make you feel elated. Makes no difference. Continue doing what you're supposed to do, but don't also be in a state where you will not act. Don't say, no, I am very worried. If I do this, what will happen? Then I will not act. No. You have to act. And that's the sum and substance of motivation.
Great. Sir, I am about to ask you so many questions, but the way you answered, all the questions I think got answered. Because so much of wisdom you are sharing with us, it's definitely your experience and the work you have done, body of work you have done. It proves. One question I'm asking you, sir, viewers, I think you will be amazed to know that all the questions I've written one by one, you just told me the answers of all the questions here. Sir, it's great to have you once again. I think I should not ask you some more questions, but two more questions, which are without those questions, I think we should not leave you from this session, podcast session. Uh, you are into the operations management for so long. In Wipro BPS, I have seen you, how you have worked in Kolkata, in Powai, in Hyderabad, various departments used to manage, and it's a job of multitasking. It's a very hectic job. It's not a easy job sitting at your room and doing some emails. People have a thought that if somebody is a vice president or a general manager, they don't have any work, but it's a total misconception, because I've seen people from very closely. I'm very fortunate to see you. I am very fortunate to see some of the greatest president, vice president, gyms of the biggest countries of the world and the India. So how, sir, do you manage this multitasking? Because this is a very hectic kind of a job and a schedule. How you prepare yourself mentally, and how you execute your plan without reacting, or especially in the moment of crisis or in the moment of emergency?
So,
What is your approach?
Great question again, Sandeep. So let me tell you that it is not an easy answer, okay? But there are some definitive answers. There are two or three parts to this entire success. If somebody has to manage a complex job, personal time management is very important. Number two, you need to have the best in class people working with you. So your team has to be, again, I'm repeating again and again, no leader can ever do all jobs. In fact, there are a lot of jobs which you not only don't know how to do, if you do, you'll do a bad job. So for those jobs, you should never even attempt. You must get people under you who are skilled in those jobs. So it is not necessary to assume that because I am a certain position in an organization, I should know everything. No, you cannot. Just think about it from a very rational level. You spend about 75 to 80 years in the world, correct? After birth. In those 80 years, you can just about scratch what is available as knowledge in this universe. You don't know anything when you go to your grave. If you compare it honestly, if you self-evaluate, you know just about an infinitesimally small 1% of what knowledge is available. See, I don't know how to do surgery. I don't know how to fly a plane. I don't know what oil rigging is all about. I don't know what going in ships is all about. There's so many things I don't know. What I know is infinitesimally small. And hence, even in your domain of work, never feel arrogant that you know everything. Keep people with you who know something which you don't know, because without knowing that, the job can never be done well. So I've been extremely lucky right through my career to have teams who are brilliant, who are not only brilliant, who have complementary skills of mine. If I have strength in analysis, there's a person in my team who thinks beyond analysis. He looks at the softer side of life. So you need to have people who are complementary in your team to make the job well. But more importantly, time management is something which has been extremely important to do multitasking. And I have a small mantra for that, which has to be understood. Every morning when you get up, there are a set of 20 or 30 things you're supposed to do, right? The first thing you must pick up are those where there are dependencies. What does it mean? There are things where somebody has to do something for your job to get over. That dependent task has to be addressed first. So get up in the morning, look at your list. If there are 4 tasks that are dependent on somebody, hand it over to him right in the morning. Because that person will have the full day to do work now. Otherwise, you hand over the work to him in the evening, he has no time to do that work that day. So dependable, anything as dependency, hand over to the person right in the morning, and that should be the first task given out by you right in the morning. Number two, look at the remaining tasks. How many of them can be delegated? How many of them can be done by somebody else? Because that is how the task has to be done. So delegate that task. In the end, you will land up with 3 or 4 tasks which you have to do. So dependency, hand over right in the morning. Delegation next. Rest, what you have to do. Now, what you have to do in a senior level is very different from what you have to do in an entry level. A senior level person's job is to prevent problems. You talked about crisis. His job is not to manage crisis. Manage crisis, surely he will do. But he is tested on how many crises did he prevent. And if he can't prevent crisis, but he always solves crisis, he's not a good leader. So the task that you are supposed to be doing yourself is setting up systems and processes which give you leading indicators of challenges coming up. So he should have at least a 1 year to 1.5 year vision ahead, what needs to be done. He must have plans for at least 6 months ahead, crystallized in the head, so that he will take his team along with him during that period. If he only focuses on solving today's problem, unfortunately, he is not only doing disservice to himself, he is doing a big disservice to his team, and most importantly, the biggest disservice to the organization he works for. So leadership is about, number one, having a great team of complementary leaders, and number two, about managing time effectively, where you spend your personal time in preventing issues and planning ahead to grow, and delegate or give away jobs to dependency people right at the beginning of the day. And if you can master this art, it's also a combination of art and science. It's not pure science. It's art and science. Then your life becomes easier, will not become absolutely easy, but you will enjoy the work even in those kind of crises. I hope that could answer what you asked.
Sir, you have made all the points which could have been there. And Bill Gates once said that I choose people who are smarter than me. You have been to different organizations as the president, vice president, GM yourself. Do you choose people who are smarter than you? Do you believe in this theory?
Without a doubt, I just told that to you. You must always choose people with complementary skills who are smarter than you. Remember, ego is a huge factor for failure. You cannot have ego as the I in any kind of environment is going to guarantee that you are the cause of the problem. Because remember that none of what you are doing is you. The power above who is doing it. You are just the instrument. So assuming that I am the man succeeding, I am the man creating greatness, I am creating a great organization is an absolute myth. Number one. Having said that, your self-awareness has to be very high. What can you do, what you can't do? Only you know and God knows, right? I don't think anybody else knows more intensely what you know, what you're capable of, what you can do. You can put up a front in front of the world. You can put on an act. But the truth is known to you and God. So it's always better to be honest to yourself and say, I can't do this. I need a smarter guy in this area of work. Let us get him in. And if you have no ego, like many organizations have leaders who are always scared of some reportee taking over his job tomorrow. In fact, insecurity is very high. So I have been in a state always thrilled if people below me are smart enough to take over my job tomorrow. It also means that I can do some other job. So insecurity should never stop you from choosing the best leaders under you, even if they are smarter than you, more competent than you, and more qualified than you.
You can focus your energy on a different aspect if you are not insecure, isn't it?
Very true.
Definitely.
Very true.
For the betterment of the organization. Definitely. What a valid point, sir. You made this once again a valid one. Sir, just two more questions which I want to ask you. Currently, we are going through a crisis where the GDP is very low. It was going high, but suddenly this second wave hit us so badly. The GDP, not only India, the entire world's GDP is going, the curve is going below. And sir, since you have already worked with so many reputed organizations and been to prestigious positions yourself, you're a global outsourcing professional yourself. If you were in the position of the government, any ministry or anything, since you are a leader yourself, how would have you handle such situation? I'm not talking about GDP. I'm just talking about the situation which you are going through. If you are in the ministry, or if you're into, as a consultant, if you are supporting the government, state government or the central government, what is your plan of action, or what is your approach? If you can share very briefly with us, because the time is very limited.
Will do. So let's talk about two things. The pandemic has given everybody a chance to give an opinion on everything and anything, right? The first thing is to pick up the stick and beat the government and say they never forecasted the pandemic. Now, go back to history in the last 12 months. How many agencies predicted a second wave to come in the month of March or April? And you will find people said it will come sometime. So everybody knows sometime it will come. But who predicted it will come in March? Nobody predicted it.
Right.
Now, what happens in the scenarios is very simple. Is that when you sit in a car and you look at the rear view mirror is always very clean. The windscreen, when you're driving a car, the windscreen in front is the one that gets dirty. So when you see through the windscreen, some things are not clear. But when you see hindsight, everything looks clear. And when you're driving from the back seat, where you don't have the steering wheel in your hand, you can give lot of directions on how to drive a car. These are all the people, cricket commentators who are not on the ground, who talk about how Tendulkar should bat. Fantastic. Have you ever been in a test match? Never. One day international? Never. T20? Never. But I will give gyan on how T20 should be played, how this stroke has to be played, how somebody should bowl. That is the first challenge that we have. Let us understand the basics first. It is all about forecasting. In the outsourcing industry, we forecast volumes, right? We say that based on historical trends and seasonality of volumes, we predict volumes. Like, for example, Amazon predicts that during festivals, their sales go X number of times higher. And then you plan for that. You predict, let us say, a prediction of X is going to become 3X, and you plan for 3X. No one plans for 6X and 8X. So what happened in the pandemic was, you suddenly, historically, X used to become 2X in the second wave. India got 3X. If you go back to history and see, active cases, the highest last year was about 1 lakh cases at a given point of time. I would say lakh new cases on a given day. This time,
right,
it touched about 3.5 lakh cases on a given day. New cases. That's about 3 times what happened last year. People never predicted, no model, no forecasting model predicted how much will happen, when it will happen. Now, in that environment, what a government must do is very simple. Number one, immediately collaborate and seek help to manage the situation. Number two, communicate effectively with people. Number three, know what is possible, what is not possible, but continuously communicate with your team so the team that is fighting on the ground for you doesn't get disheartened. So government has a role to manage a crisis which has not been forecasted, could not have been forecasted, and yet you have to manage the volume. For example, I remember when we were in Kolkata in our program, we used to have sudden volume spikes which was never forecasted. What it mean? Abandoning calls. Abandoning calls means what? Some customer in distress not being helped. Unfortunately, in a pandemic, if you don't help a person, he's going to die. It's worse. But you can't help it. What can one do? Because that's the prediction. You can't plan for oxygen requirement 20 times what happened last year. No one plans like that. Even at home, I ask people, my sons who also cook, that if you have got prediction of last year, you had maximum 10 guests coming in a day, will you ever plan for food buying for 40 people in a day? Never.
Not possible.
You have to handle the situation when 40 people turn up. You have to handle it. And how do you handle it? Collaborate, ask people for help, find ways to mitigate their problem, And during that period, there is going to be collateral damage. In a call center, abandoning of calls. But if you communicate to the client right, you keep the citizens informed what is going to happen, you can only mitigate it. You can't eliminate it. That is one part. The second part of the pandemic taught us that what could have been planned was not planned. For example, vaccination. We also know that vaccination, what is the population of India? We know how many vaccines are there in India. We know the capacity of the vaccine manufactured in India. We know the vaccines manufactured outside, what their capacity is. We could have done a far superior job planning for what was known. Population of India did not become 130 crores overnight, right? The population was there. So somebody had to sit. So that is where I think we massively failed. Did we fail in forecasting? No. Forecasting models are only that good and can only predict that much. And in that environment, how do you address and respond is very important. But in a vaccination scenario, you need to plan. You need to understand this country needs vaccination. So you may not know second wave will come or third wave will come. But you must have a sense of urgency that unless you vaccinate people, second wave comes or not, at least people are protected. You cannot vaccinate a person thinking that I will vaccinate only when third wave comes. That is too late. Collateral damage, people are dying. So one area where you can't predict, you must learn how to mitigate and manage. Where you can predict, you should do a great job in planning and executing. So as a leader, these two areas you must master. When you can't plan to what you can. Beyond that, learn how to manage a crisis in terms of mitigation, which involves collaboration, seeking help, finding alternatives, getting ideas, communicating. When you know something is already there, when you know a specific issue like vaccination, plan for it methodically and execute methodically. Don't allow it to drift like it is happening today.
Right. Team management plays a huge part, as you mentioned. Sir, the last question, but not the least, the most important question: how KG Mohan keeps himself fit mentally, physically, and how he finds himself so energetic always.
See, this is nothing concerning me as a person. I think everybody, I believe, is energetic. There are thousands of people like me who are every day you get up in the morning saying that if today is my last day, how will I live? And that will motivate you to be happy, energetic, and healthy. Now, the biggest learning that one has is always through his past failures, right? And if you have been a diabetic and not taking care of your health, there are consequences. You learn from that. If you have been a leader who took a few wrong decisions in life, you're going to learn from that. So your past, whatever you have gone through as not so happy, is going to make you understand how to lead life ahead. And to keep yourself energized, always remember, if today is your last day on planet Earth and you want that day to be best utilized, how would you do it? You will keep yourself energized. What me? Sandeep will do that. Anybody on the earth will do the same thing. So keep that philosophy and remember that life is beautiful. Life has its ups and downs, yet beautiful. And the planet, which was 5 billion years ago, I told you started, is going to last another 5 billion years. So let us not even worry about what's going to happen. If you know our old yugas in this world, the 4 yugas, what we call the Satya Yuga, the Treta, the Dwapara, and our Kali Yuga, these 4, when the entire one revolution happens, is one day of Brahma, right? So imagine how many days we have gone through. And so how many people across lifetimes have gone through lives happy, energetic. We just have to copy that same paradigm of look at your day as the last day in life and lead it that way. Keep serving people. Service as I am a strong believer and a devotee of Bhagwan Sai Baba. And when he says 2 things, that Shri Sai Baba says Shraddha and Saburi. He says have implicit faith, have infinite patience. And Bhagwan Sai Baba says love all, serve all. Live in these 4 paradigms: Shraddha, Saburi, love all, serve all. And remember that you are nothing in this universe, when you compare yourself to the entire cosmos, you are just nothing. Be aware of that and lead your life happily. All will fall in place. Where you are currently is exactly where you have to be right now. You are in perfect equilibrium. The world is in perfect equilibrium right now. Enjoy it and lead life ahead. That's my message for you, Sandeep.
Sir, I wanted to ask you about a particular thing, but you have answered it. The spirituality part, you are yourself a very spiritual person. I can see that from your thoughts and also whatever you write on social media. I'm an avid follower of those things. So you have answered that spiritual part of it. Uh, just one insight I would like to share with you, which I am also felt since last year. Humans have become very greedy, and I think the nature is trying to take its position back. And when you see the pandemic is happening, I see it's a symbol of that. Nature is saying that this is my position and nobody can uplift me from here. See, there, for example, the cyclones, recent cyclones. Last year Amphan happened in West Bengal, Odisha, and the outskirts of Andhra Pradesh. Before that Fani happened. Before then Ayla happened. 2004 tsunami happened. Earthquake happening every now and then, all parts of the world. Darjeeling recently, North Bengal, an earthquake happened of 6 point some magnitude. So I somehow believe, sir, that human race has become so greedy. They are cutting trees, they are killing animals, they're killing rarest of the breeds of animal. They're building real estates, but they are not realizing, and they are buying oxygens. They're cutting a tree which serves the entire oxygen a person cannot, accommodate entire his life. Is cutting a tree which serves so much of oxygen for so many people. So I think that is, we as a I am as a person, I am as a thinker also very much concerned. You are saying that we'll be living for 500 million years more, but if the greed of the human beings are still the same, then how things going to do? This thing bothers me a lot.
I don't think it should bother you at all. See, there is always going to be upheavals. See, if you look at it from the Sanatana Dharma perspective, for thousands of years, we dumped our culture and heritage. So Adi Shankara came in at the age of 32. He went on to ahead to preach the Vedantic philosophy and Advaita philosophy. And society at that point of time was in decay. His first disciple, Mandana Mishra, was a very arrogant person who followed ritualistic life. Whereas Adi Shankara came into his connect, and through a debate with him, Adi Shankara defeated him, and he took him as his first student or Sishya and set up the Sringeri Mutt. So the people come in various phases of life to change the environment that exists. Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa came 1,000 years later. It happened in the early 1900s, where they again came back. Right?
Hello. I think we lost connectivity with Mr. KG Mon once again due to some network issue. He was talking about Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Let me check once again.
Can you hear me, Sandeep?
Yeah. I can hear you, sir.
I can't see you.
We lost you for some time.
Yes.
Yeah, technical glitches. You're talking about Swami Vivekananda, yeah.
Yes, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa came. We all thought the illiterate man, he was the greatest devotee of Mother Kali. And he, in fact, experienced multiple religions. And then finally, the Advaita philosophy, which he followed, which again proves that you have masters coming to this world. And his student, what I would call as Swami Vivekananda, Narendra, as he was born, he went about to establish the Advaita philosophy of life, the Vedantic philosophy of life. And down the years again, Sathya Sai Baba came to do the same thing. So what? There are masters who will come. We feel that society is in decay, nothing can happen, people are greedy, world will come to an end. No, masters will come at some frequency throughout lifetimes. So that is the only reason why our nation as such, think about it, based on the kind of diversity we have, we could have broken up many years ago. It never happened. And that's because of masters coming in again and again and re-establishing the fundamental value systems of our nation. So if that is done again and again, there is no necessity for us to fear that greed is going to demolish this world. No, there will be decay for sure. Human decay is a part of the cycle, right? Otherwise, the earth will not revolve around the sun. The sun
Right.
will not revolve around the super sun. There is going to be continuous change happening, but there is going to be at some frequency. And as Lord Krishna again in Gita said, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavatu bharata. That means whenever there is decay, I will make myself available to end decay. And when he says that, it is not that he's only coming. His avatars will come, small avatars will come and make those corrective changes. And that is why this earth moves even today, right? Irrespective of the greed, irrespective of the bad guys around, I don't think the world is in absolute decay. There is some decay happening somewhere. Newspapers always print the bad news on the front page, right? Newspapers sell, television channels sell their TRPs based on
TRP.
bad news. Whereas 99.99% of the world is filled with great people. And I will end again by sharing a story of Lord Krishna, Duryodhana, and Yudhishthira. Once Lord Krishna told Yudhishthira and Duryodhana in the morning, Lord Krishna told Yudhishthira, go into the world, find a bad man, and bring him to me in the evening. He told Duryodhana, go into the world, find a good man, and bring him to me in the evening. Evening, both of them came to Lord Krishna, and both said, we haven't found the person. Yudhishthira said, I couldn't find a bad person. Duryodhana said, I couldn't find a good person. What were they doing? They were looking at people like themselves. So Yudhishthira saw good everywhere, and Duryodhana saw bad everywhere. But the reality is, goodness actually outnumbers badness by multitudes. The number of good people on planet Earth. Otherwise, we'll have more jails in this world than free people, right? Number of people in the jail are a minority, right? That gives
Right.
you the fact that the good people are innumerable. And that is why this planet will continue. There will be moderate decay. There will be some downturns. But there will be masters who come, who will teach us again to get back to our roots, fundamentals, and continue life.
Absolutely. Sir, the more I'm speaking with you, the more you're speaking to the audience and the viewers. So much of insight, so much of wisdom which is coming from your end. I don't want to end this podcast, but the time is very limited. You are super busy, and I have some other tasks to do as well. If time persists, we might do another 2.0 version sometime this year, if possible. But here, I would like to thank once again, sir, for coming and enriching our podcast to another different level altogether. Because you are the first person who came and I talked about so many things which where we went to deeper, so deep that I mean it touches the human soul and the mind. And thank you for doing it, sir. And thank you for the motivation you have given to so many people who are fighting right now in their lives. And especially those who are COVID people who are watching this, I believe they will find some motivation from the slokas of Gita and whatever spiritual knowledge you have given. So thank you once again, sir, from the depth of my heart.
Thank you,
And
Sandeep, for the opportunity. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
great to be with you. Yes, please, sir, please say.
I said thank you for the opportunity, and I also wish you the best of luck for what you have done. And this is a great thing you have started, and it benefits innumerable people. Technology is going to take it to places where people would never have got an opportunity to interact. And you're doing a great job. All I can do as I end is to say, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, that all the worlds be happy and in absolute equilibrium. Thank you.
So stay safe, stay healthy, and spread the positive vibes that you are already spreading so much. And I want to tell all our viewers, if you have any questions, feel free to come us to our channel. And I will send this question to sir. If sir finds some time, he will definitely get back to you. And stay safe, stay healthy, wear masks, please use sanitizers, and make your family and yourself safe. We are going through a difficult phase, but sooner or later, as sir said, this time will come to an end and we'll have a normal life that you used to enjoy 2 or 3 years back. So thank you, sir, once again, and
Much.
have a nice day, have a great day, and have a healthy year as well.
You too, Sandeep. Thank you.
Bye bye.